Welcome to Rebuilding the Republic, Conversations about America's Future, here at the New York State Writers Institute at the University at Albany. I'm Mark Koplik, Assistant Director. Today's conversation is a partnership with UAlbany's Office for Public Engagement and Office of Diversity and Inclusion. We're thrilled to be here with South Carolina journalist Issac Bailey, author of Why Didn't We Riot? A Black Man in Trumpland, a powerful and provocative collection of essays about what it means to be Black in America today. You can read more about Issac Bailey and his book right here on this page. You can also purchase a copy of the book via a link to an independent bookstore here on this screen. With us today to lead the conversation is our frequent programming collaborator, Dr. Alfredo Medina, Executive Director for the Office for Public Engagement and Associate Director of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Dr. Medina holds a PhD in Educational Policy and Leadership from the University at Albany. His research focuses on the experiences of Afro-Latinx college students, specifically in negotiating their ethno-racial identity, Black and Latinx simultaneously, while challenging ideologies that promote and perpetuate anti-Blackness in the Latinx community. Alfredo, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mark, for having me. All right. So again, I'm thrilled as always that the New York State Writers Institute brings some stellar authors, and I couldn't pass up this opportunity to have this moment to actually engage with Issac Bailey and to have an opportunity to read your book. First, let me just say, Issac, that your book came at the right time. I know that as somebody who self-identifies as both, as an Afro-Latino, as both Black and Latinx simultaneously, navigating the world, particularly in American society, can be very challenging and as I think you've said in your book, it can be exhausting. And so reading the book just over the weekend helped to sort of bring back some perspective and to affirm what it's like for me every day that I wake up. As I like to say to a lot of my colleagues and my friends, I wake up Black and brown, and I go to bed Black and brown. And so I never have the privilege to be able to put away parts of my identity because it is who I am and it's the way I have to navigate this world. And as I read your book, the one part that I wanted to just read before we jump into our interview is for anyone who's interested in reading your book, I think you made it very clear as to who this book is for. And let me just read real quickly. This book is for those who have either forgotten or have never known what life can be like for a Black person who has to navigate a region in which the blood of their enslaved ancestors still fertilizes the soil. The flag of our enslavers flies freely just about everywhere. And statues and monuments and memorials built in honor of those who raped and beat and lynched our great aunts, uncles and grandmothers and grandfathers greet us at the schoolhouse and the courthouse and in the public square. Here, we are sick and tired of being sick and tired. This book explains why. And I think just reading that there really helps to sort of capture the essence of your book. So let me start with the first question, Issac, that I wanted to ask. Why Didn't We Riot includes a myriad of personal stories and your own professional experiences as a journalist, but more importantly, as a Black man in America. Can you share what it was like writing this book?
Yes, yes, thank you for that. It was hard, and because at least actually for the first time in my career, I really let myself be openly angry. And because one of the things about actually living this existence is this knowledge that you sort of you actually feel responsible for for the comfort of white people, frankly. Yes, and it's therefore that I've actually spent like so much time like in that lens, like in that kind of vein, that it was very, very difficult, like in order for me to like actually pull myself out of that, like in order to like actually, yes, like in order to like actually really be able to speak these truths. Yes, like, and because like I knew for certain, I mean, yes, in terms of that, like it actually would upset a like lot like of my like white friends and colleagues and neighbors and former church members, etc. And like, and yet for me though, like it was exceedingly important, like in order to do it anyway, simply because like I think that like at this moment that there like is like this absolute need for radical truth and like radical honesty.
No, I appreciate that. I like that term, exceedingly angry. You know, just, and also being just openly angry, right, about how you've been feeling and not having to always compartmentalize a lot of those feelings. I have to say, one of my favorite chapters, albeit difficult to digest, was the chapter on the uncomfortable truth about Black men and violence.
Yeah.
You show great vulnerability. You share parts of your lived experiences that really includes trauma, both past and present. You explicitly share your battle with, and correct, I want to make sure I get this right, chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, CIDB. Before I jump in and ask the second question is, what can you explain for us, what is CIDB? CIDP, I'm sorry.
CIDP, yes. Yes, and like essentially, like it is this kind of like it is this very, very rare like like immune condition, like in which like your sort of like white blood cells like at least like actually start to like actually attack your like your sort of like nerve linings. Yes, and then yes, and then so like essentially like it actually like slowly sort of like actually at least like actually sort of actually cuts off like your sort of like nerve activity. Yes, and also like then it sort of actually like it actually sort of like atrophies like your sort of like muscles. I mean, yes, and so like for me, like it actually started uh, 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 yes, in terms of like actually with like these tangles, sort of like in my sort of like toes at first, and then it sort of like actually stayed there at least like actually for like a very long time. Yes, and then that like it actually climbed its way like up my legs, like and sort of like into my hands, etc. And then that like I sort of like actually got to the point like where like it actually was like difficult. I'm like in order for me to like actually walk at all, or like or even to like actually I'm like at least like actually to like actually be able to like actually like fold a like large towel. Like for instance, like and also like I was like actually like in like the hospital for like almost 2 weeks and almost sort of I'm like died there. I mean, yes, so like it is like this kind of like it is like this really, really rare condition. Yes, like and also that like it actually is associated with inflamed sort of nerves. Yes, and like which is sort of like actually associated like actually with stress levels and all those sort of things, which is why like I sort of also like actually touched on it like in the book as well.
I mean, that was a part of the book that really sort of struck me, is how you align CIDP with white supremacy. You describe what CIDP did to you, and ways white supremacy has done to the United States. Can you
Yes.
elaborate on that analogy? Because I think you did a phenomenal job in the way you wrote that up in your book.
Yes. 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 Excuse me. But yes, and then that like it is sort of yes, in terms of that CIDP like it's sort of like always like actually flowing through my blood, like even now in remission. Like, and yet though that like all of those scars like that it left are also with me. Yes, and so like therefore that like these sort of like left side like of my body, for instance, is still like just like is sort of still sort of I'm like weaker. Yes, like and also that like I can still run now again. Yes, I mean, but like I cannot run as far or fast, etc. And then so that yes, like and also that there sort of like is like this possibility that there sort of actually will be like more like overt bouts like actually with it like in the future, and also that like I cannot predict when or how. I mean, yes, and so like essentially, like it is the same thing that sort of like what's like actually happening, like actually sort of like actually like in this country, like actually with that white supremacy. Yes, like and because like even kind of like even when it sort of like actually seemingly he's like actually goes into remission, and yet though that it is still there, like it is still present, like and also that like all of those scars and sort of like all of that damage is also still there. Yes, like and also again, yes, in terms of that, like there sort of like is like always the possibility that like there sort of actually will be more eruptions. Yes, like and also that I think that we actually saw that like so like frankly like in sort of like 2016 so like actually like with like Trump like actually being elected, and also on like January 6th of this year as well. I mean yes, and so I mean yes, and then that like these sort of like struggle like with it, I mean like is to like actually try to find a way to cope with it. And yet though that like we sort of like actually should not succumb to it, and also like we also must struggle like in order to like actually like not feel helpless like in the face of it either.
No, that was great. And I think you even, I remember touched on how it could come on sort of subtly. And I started thinking right away about like microaggressions.
Yes.
How they introduce themselves in there, and the next thing you know, they become a little bit more overt, and then they can become intense. And so just thinking about how you were grappling with CIDP at the same time dealing with being a Black journalist and dealing with racism must have been very, very exhausting. So thank you for sharing the part of that in your book. And we already know it's hard enough being Black in America. But then being Black during Trump's presidency was even further exhausting, right?
Oh my God.
You know, we could spend forever talking about how difficult that was. I mean, that was a long 4 years. And you shared your views on the banality of white supremacy in Trumpland, especially among white evangelical Christians. Let me ask you this, Isaac. What is it about white Christians and their unwavering support of Trump? Like, why is white supremacy and racism not a deal breaker for so many white Christians?
Yes, and that question, like, is like one that I am still grappling with to this day. Yes, like, and because of course, like I sort of actually still live here. Yes, like, and also that like my neighbors, associates, etc., like are still here as well. And then that, I mean, at least for me, like one of the most like uncomfortable truths that I sort of like actually had to admit, like as a Black Christian, like is that, yes, in terms of that, like is that like my religion has never ever been I'm like uncomfortable or sort of incompatible with white supremacy. And then so I mean yes, I mean yes, and then that at least like actually when it came to like slavery, for instance, that like my religion, I'm sort of like was like actually used like in order to like actually give that institution like some kind of like moral like underpinning. Like, and also that like we actually saw that like actually like after Reconstruction, yes, like and also sort of at least like actually when the sort of like KKK sort of actually rose up and they were lynching like Black people left and right, that like those folks were white Christians as well. Yes, like and also sort of like yes, like and also sort of at least like actually during Jim Crow, I mean, just in terms of like actually when it came to white Christians here, like they also supported that. And so, yes, and so there like is like this long, uncomfortable and like unfortunate history, like which like actually links my religion, like which is like also like actually helped like so many like Black people sort of like actually fight against sort of like racism, for instance. And so, I mean, yes, and then that, yes, and then that, like that really is a struggle. Yes, like, and because that, like this sort of like one sort of like religion, like actually has been like responsible for like so much racism. All, yes, I mean like, yes, I mean for decades upon decades, like in this country. And also sort of like it has inspired, I mean, at least like in terms of how, excuse me, yes, in terms of, like actually when it came, like actually like to the sort of like civil rights movement, for instance, like that too, like actually, like that too was like actually inspired by that Christianity, by Black people, for instance. And so like it is like really, really hard like to actually square that circle. And yes, and then so like for me, like what I found here at least, like is that at least at least for like my sort of like white I'm sort of I'm like friends like who are Christian, that yes, in terms of that I mean they actually have limits, like actually when it comes to like actually fighting racism. Yes, and so yes, and then yes, yeah, yes, and then so like therefore, like if it doesn't cost them anything, yes, in terms of I mean, say that we can have like an interracial like prayer breakfast or hugs like after the like shooting like in like Charleston, et cetera, like those kind of things, like and also that like we can like even like actually watch each other's kids, et cetera, like yes, like all of those kind of like normal kind of things. Yes, in terms of that, I'm like they are absolutely in favor of, and like actually say that yes, like and yes, like and also say that like they sort of like faith, like I mean, like is like the reason why like they would do that. But if you like actually go any further than that, yes, in terms of yes, in terms of yes, in terms of yes, in terms of that like if you say that like we also like actually must fight for like voting rights, or kind of like, or sort of like for sort of like fewer sort of like cop shootings, for instance. Yes, and then suddenly, like they balk and they say, no, that like that is too far. And so like I have seen that time and time and time again, and like I've just gotten tired of it, frankly.
Isaac, I feel for you because I know what that's like. It's let's talk about everything, but let's not get too into the weeds about race and race relations, because it's about comfort. And I know, and reading parts of that, and you being part of that evangelical church for so long, and to have to sort of have to navigate how much you can and can't share about your experiences must have been really exhausting. So thank you for sharing parts of that in your book. I mean, let's just kind of segue because you brought it up. I started thinking about how you sort of made this connection about Dylan Roof.
Yes.
And with, when he, as a white supremacist walked into that Charleston church and just, shot all the parishioners that were in there.
Yes.
The one particular question I always grapple with, because this happens a lot in the Black community, is in spite of everything that has happened, dating back to 1619 and all the horrific acts, the Black community is very resilient, but more importantly, forgiving.
Yeah.
What is that about? Why is it as a Black community, we are so forgiving when so much has been put upon us that you would think it would just break you apart? And yet, can you speak to that? Because I know you touch on, why didn't we riot, right? But we find forgiveness.
Yes, yes, and yes, and that like that chapter like actually was like one of like the hardest to write, simply because like it was like really hard to like actually try to balance like these kind of like dual messages like that we actually send other people, simply because like yes, and then that, at least for me, like, and sort of, at least like the folks like in this region, like at the very least, that a foundational principle of our faith is forgiveness, like is to like actually be able to forgive anybody, like even your worst enemy. Yes, like, and also that, like that, yes, in terms of that, like that, yes, in terms of that, like that kind of command, like actually comes like actually that straight from that Jesus's mouth. Yes, it's like it is a big deal. Yes, like, and also that frankly is that at least like actually like what it also does like is to like actually let you hold on to your sanity like in crazy times as well. Like it actually helps you simply because like it actually stops you from the like from like actually becoming helpless or bitter. Yes, and so like it actually does like all of those wonderful things, like which is a great thing. Yes, but unfortunately, like it has been so uneven. Yes, and so like therefore that especially since like we are like always doing like all of this forgiving, and yet though that like we sort of like actually seldom like actually get it back in kind. Yet, yes, yes. Yes, like, and that at least like actually like these sort of like other example like that I sort of actually touched on this about like actually was like that sort of like shooting in Dallas, like yes, in terms of like whereas like this kind of like this sort of like white cop like actually shot like this Black dude, and like his brother like on the stand sort of like actually forgave her, and also like these sort of like Black judge yes, in terms of like also sort of like actually gave she actually gave her the sort of my lightest sentence possible, and also sort of like hugged her like in the middle of the courtroom. Yes, yes, it was like a, yes, like, and also, I mean, yes, and then that, like, I sort of actually heard from so many like of my my white Christian friends after that, and they said, "Wonderful! Oh my God, this is so inspiring! This is, oh my God!" Just in terms of that, I mean, this is like Christ-like, etc. And yet, though, that yet though that I have never seen that scenario in reverse. Yes, and then that had it been had it been like that sort of like black dude just in terms of like had like actually shot like that white cop instead, like I do not see like any white judge like actually at least like actually giving like him like a very, very light sentence, and then like actually hugging him like in the courtroom. Like I don't see like any of the white cops saying that like we actually forgive you, son, and also that we actually wish the best for you, and also that like I don't see that his like siblings like actually would have done that, like actually like for like a sort of like young sort of like black dude like who actually would have done that. Yes, and then so like for me, yes, in terms of at least like our sort of that concept of forgiveness is really important and really powerful, but like however like it absolutely like has actually been sort of actually used against us again and again and again and again, and so like that is the real problem with it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. It's that duality of being angry but being forgiving at the same time.
Yes.
And the balance of it is always that forgiveness will always overcome your anger, but you never do anything with the anger. The anger just continues to sort of boil in you, and you just wait for the day that it'll be reciprocated for you. And I get exactly what you're saying, Isaac. I'm with you. I don't know if that will ever be reciprocated.
Yes.
You talk a lot also about how Trumpland, as really in many ways has contributed to anxiety, depression, frustration, and just anger among Black Americans and persons of color, right, including immigrants. And here you are in this book, really opening up about yourself. I mean, throughout the book, your lived experiences is interwoven, right? I mean, you talk about, dealing with a family member who was tragically murdered. My apologies. Your brother's incarceration, growing up witnessing domestic violence. I can relate to everything you said there because I'm still dealing with my own past traumas. And I know you even talk about being a broken Black man.
Yeah.
As a writer, here you are, people look for writing to be inspired, to feel better, to feel like they can make a difference. How do you cope with all those experiences while still having to deal with racism and writing about race and racism?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I mean,
it's heavy. I just want to put it out there because, that's what I value about your book. It has a power of vulnerability that I think a lot of readers will get from that and feel like, oh, it's okay to talk like this. It's okay to own that. But for you, how is that coping with it?
Yes. And I'm like, thank you for that. And then that, at least for me, like it has been, that frankly, like the thing like that has kept me sane. Yes, like, and because at least for me, like if I can own my whole story, and like I can like actually yes, and then that like it absolutely like actually it gives me a sense of power and purpose like even during the darkest moments. like even during the darkest days, simply because like I know that I still can do something, that I still matter, that my voice matters. Yes, and then so like for me, that like as kind of like as sort of like painful like as it is, like in order to like actually be able to like be open about all these things, like it actually was like a more painful in order to actually just be like silent about it, simply because I felt shame. Yes, and so like for me, at least in terms of that, this work is very, very difficult. Like yet though, it is also healing, simply because it absolutely beats back the shame. And yes, like, and also that I sort of like actually like now sort of actually get to see my whole self. Yes, and then so like from there, that like I am now more comfortable with myself. Yes, like and sort of like even with my stutter, for instance, like which is like also like a part of this journey, like actually as like one sort of my manifestation like of my trauma, for instance. Yes, in terms of that, yes, in terms of that, at least like actually when I was struggling against it and sort of like actually, essentially sort of like even trying to hide it. Yes, like, and because like I was so ashamed, like that burden of shame is so big, it is so heavy, it will beat you down like nothing else. Yes, and then so like for me, like if you can own your own story, warts and all, yes, and then that actually like will like actually help you through like most things.
Listen, I was going to say that you mentioned healing. I was going to say that your writing to me was very cathartic. And that's why I said it came at the right time, because there's really never a perfect time to sit down and to reflect and to think about what it's like being Black and brown in America. And in spite of it all, right, I would never change that about myself. And I think that's really what you're getting at, is that
Exactly.
Here you are, you're proud and you're Black, but it ain't easy.
Right, exactly.
Yes. Yeah, that's really what it is, right? That is kind of at the essence of what
that's
it is.
it right there.
Don't pity for me. I don't want pity from you.
Exactly.
I'm just telling you what it is.
Exactly. Perfect. Yes. Like right. That is exactly it.
Right. I want to close out with this one question. Today, the trial for Derek Chauvin begins. You know, for many Americans, particularly Black Americans, we have to relive this trauma of George Floyd's murder at the hands of the Minneapolis Police Department. What would you say from your own experiences of covering a lot of race relations, race-focused, racist acts that you've dealt with even at the Sun-Times? How do we as a society prepare for today, moving forward, watching and reliving this and not knowing what that verdict is going to be like?
Yeah.
In the end, how should we prepare for this, Isaac?
Yeah. Yes, that too, like is like another great big question as well, and at least for me, that like I've already like actually that's like I've already started to actually think about like even sort of possibly like writing about like that question that you just asked, and yes, like and like for me right now, that I am sort of actually still like in this mode of radical honesty. Yes, and so like right now, I am like sitting here and I am not expecting a guilty verdict. Yes, like I am not. Yes, like and like that is because like I have like absolutely yes, like I've actually seen this system up close so many different times in so many different ways. At least like actually come up short on these issues. Yes, and so like my early expectation is that like there's sort of like actually like will not be real justice here. And yes, and so like for me, like I am absolutely willing to feel that and own it, and also admit it. I'm like, yes, like, and because like I think that that sort of actually highlights like our like problem sort of actually with this so-called justice system. And yes, and then so like for me, like that is the bigger issue. Yes, like, and because if you can have something like this happen, and you can have a Tamir Rice, you can have a Breonna Taylor, and on and on and on, and also that like there is real doubt that there can be justice in any of those cases, then like that says that there is something really, really unhealthy, at least about this system. Yes, and it's like for me, I want everybody to not forget that. Yes, and it's like therefore, like I don't want people to look away. Like even though it is going to be difficult, like even though that it is going to be painful all over again, like yes, in terms of that, like I don't want people to like actually let us off the hook. Yes, like, and because yes, yes, like, and because like even if I am sort of like actually wrong about that verdict, and I would be that very, very happy to be wrong. Yes, I mean, but that even if that happened, like all of these other problems in the system are still there. And so like for me, like that is where like our sort of focus like absolutely must remain.
I think that's well said. And I like that radical honesty. I think there are many of us who are undergoing that, and we're losing a lot of friends and colleagues, and I'm okay with that because
Yes,
they weren't really friends to begin with if you can't be radically honest with them.
absolutely.
I want to say thank you, and I want to recommend to any of my friends and colleagues who watch this to go out and to buy your book. I especially want to recommend my Black brothers and Brown brothers to pick up this book because I think it would resonate with their own lived experiences. And I would even challenge many of people who are engaged in allyship and as co-conspirators to here's a way that you want to give back. Consider buying a book for one of your Black friends. Find ways that you can learn yourself and also find a way that you can do it together, because I think that a lot of what you shared in there is going to continue to happen post-Trump. So thank you again, Isaac, for this opportunity. I wish you well.
It's like, thank you very much for having me too. Yes, it was good.
Is Why Didn't We Riot? A Black Man in Trumpland. It's available for purchase from an indie bookstore via a link on this screen. Thanks so much, Issac Bailey and Alfredo Medina. Let me remind you that this and all our author interviews are posted on the Writers Institute's YouTube channel, and you can find them at the conversation on our website, nyswritersinstitute.org. And please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you wish to support future programming like this, you can make a donation at our website. To our audience, thanks so much for tuning in. Be well.